Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video. This is going to be a video on the Harry Potter HBO Max show that is coming in 2026. We're going to be breaking down everything we know about the show and some recent comments by Daniel Radcliffe himself about him potentially returning in the Harry Potter universe. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so I am planning to make a lot of Harry Potter videos in the next year or so, so if you guys are Harry Potter fans and want to subscribe, please be sure to do that because I am a huge Harry Potter fan. I've always been a huge fan ever since I was very young, and actually on my channel in the past I've made lots of videos to do with Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts. They actually did really well, so hopefully you guys stick around for more videos like this. That is the way that the channel is going right now. We're going to make lots of different types of breakdowns, theories, reviews, trailer reactions to all different types of shows, different types of films, and Harry Potter is something that is very close to my heart that I want to break down. And so we're going to be talking about this Harry Potter TV show that is due to hit Max in 2026. This was announced back in 2023 that Warner Brothers and HBO Max are working on this TV show. There's been lots of stuff that we've been told about the show. We're going to be breaking down a deadline article that tells us everything that has been announced so far, but also I want to get into Daniel Radcliffe's comments because there is lots of questions out there by Harry Potter fans if the original cast members are going to be coming back at all. So, right, let's start with this. As far as we know, what HBO Max has said is this is going to be a retelling of what we saw in those Harry Potter films. But it's going to be 10 seasons long, it's going to be 10 years long, and that is obviously not like a one season thing where, you know, one season equals one book. So it's going to be telling some new stories, kind of like Game of Thrones and how they extended on from the books. So they did the books and then they continued after the books and created their own new stories. I think this Harry Potter TV show is going to take what Game of Thrones did and do it in their own way. So let's go into Daniel Radcliffe's comments first, and then we're going to get into everything else that we know about the show, so stick around throughout this entire video. So in this Variety article that we're breaking down, Daniel Radcliffe says it would be very wise for the upcoming Harry Potter television series on Max to distance itself from the iconic film series, which means the potential for him to cameo in the show is quite low. Radcliffe famously headlined Harry Potter as the titular character, of course, and so in an interview with E! Online he said, "I don't think so." When asked about starring in the series in any capacity, he says, "I think they very wisely want to have a clean break, and I don't know if it will work to have us back to do anything in it." And so I'm very happy with just watching it along with everyone else. And Radcliffe then politely backed out of any more comments to do with this Harry Potter show because he thinks he's not really going to fit in it, but also I think the fact that obviously J.K. Rowling is involved and there's been lots of comments from Daniel, from Emma Watson. I don't think those people want to be involved in the show if J.K. is going to be in the show, and that's a real big problem that Warner Brothers has because they can't get her away from the show just because she owns the rights to so much of it, and she is going to be involved at least in this series because it's supposed to be like a faithful retelling of what we saw in those movies, and she has to be involved. Like, I think there is just like behind the scenes stuff to do with that. We're gonna get into that in a minute, but yeah, I agree with Daniel. I don't expect him to be in this show, and I don't think he should be in the show just because, yeah, he could play another character, but would it make much sense if you saw him show up? Everyone would be like, why is he not playing Harry Potter? Or like maybe James Potter, maybe his dad. That would make sense considering he's a bit older now, but he's not that old to play Harry Potter's dad. But I guess if you put some makeup on him, okay, fair enough. But he also went on to say in an interview with comicbook.com earlier in the year, "My understanding is that they're very much trying to start fresh, and I'm sure whoever is making them will want to make their own mark on it, and probably will not want to have to figure out how to get the old Harry to cameo in this somewhere." So he's ruling out his cameo there once again, saying, "I'm definitely not seeking it out in any way, but I do wish them obviously all the luck in the world, and I'm very excited to have that torch passed." So now let's move on to talk about everything we know that is coming in this HBO Max show. that's coming in 2026. So we don't have an official release date, but it's been said it's coming in 2026. That's when to expect it. And so, yeah, it was announced back in 2023, and the quote was, "This new HBO Max series will deep dive into each of the iconic books that fans have continued to enjoy for all these years," which is very true, and they have assured to the fans that it's going to be a faithful adaptation. But if I'm giving you guys my opinion right here, and I think a lot of you would agree, I would prefer a new series. I would prefer something that's different. I don't want to see a faithful retelling of the books. We've seen that in the films. I can go back and watch those films any day of the week, and I like Daniel Radcliffe, I like Emma Stone, I like Rupert Grint, I like all of those other actors who played those iconic characters and became those roles over those many films, over literally the course of everyone's like childhoods or adult lives, depending on how old you were. Like for me, it was like my whole childhood was orientated around Harry Potter, so I don't really have much of a desire to see a retelling of what we've already seen when we can just go back and watch those films. Yeah, I'm a fan, and the reason I'm making this video is I want to see more Harry Potter content, since, you know, all these franchises are being built out and Harry Potter hasn't been touched in a while. Obviously, Fantastic Beasts is a separate thing, but that's in that same wizarding world, and I was always a fan of that. So I'm expecting more content, and I want to see different stuff, and I hope that they're not just sticking just to this series, because for me, I don't really want to see just what we've seen before. I want to see what happens after the end of Harry Potter and the end of the Deathly Hallows Part 2. But let's get into all the details. So early reports had each of the season of the series focusing on one book on the Harry Potter series, as I said, but which consists of 7 novels total. But Blois said that the project would run for 10 consecutive years. Now, this is a guy at Max confirming that, yeah, their plan right now is for it to run for 10 years. Again, this can't be 100% confirmed, only because they haven't made the show yet. If it's not popular, it's not going to run for 10 years. That would be a huge waste of money. And so, which would seem to defy the one season, one book assertion, which I mentioned earlier in the video. For those saying Fantastic Beasts could be leveraged to provide 10 seasons over 10 years for this show, Warner Brothers have said specifically during the announcement of this show that Fantastic Beasts will not be a part of the series. So if it does run on for 10 years and it's, you know, one season per one book, that means, like Game of Thrones, as I mentioned earlier, that would be 3 books that don't exist. So you would continue 3 books afterwards, like imaginary book that the screenwriters would have to create new stories for. And I'm actually all in for that. I want to see what happens after Harry Potter ends. And so who is creating the Harry Potter series? That is the next question that Deadline tackles. And it has taken a bit, given the initial announcement was in April 2023 of the show, but in recent months in 2024, Warner Brothers invited a select group of creatives, and this is very important, guys, listen in, to pitch ideas for what the series could be. So they are in active development, trying to get the right showrunner on board, and those people who came in were Martha Hillier, Kathleen Jordan, Tom Moran, and Michael Leslie. Now, the streaming service and Warner Brothers Television have narrowed it down to Jordan Moran and newcomer Francesca Gardner, according to new sources. So that being Kathleen Jordan and then Tom Moran. So that is both of them plus Francesca Gardner, who is a newcomer. And so it's going to be one of those 3 that's going to be the showrunner of the show. So Deadline broke the news last month that Succession writer Francesca Gardner, who is the newcomer, is among the finalists. Gardner will be a consulting producer on seasons 3 and seasons 4 of HBO's Succession. And as for Jordan, she worked on the series Teenage Bounty Hunters. She's also working on another Netflix show. So she's a Netflix go-to person. And then Tom Moran is a British writer who created the Amazon series The Devil's Hour, and that starred Peter Capaldi, and he's worked on other Amazon series, so he's an Amazon go-to guy. So they're not working with people who are specifically well-versed in the Harry Potter world. They're not trying to bring back like any of the Harry Potter directors or anything like that, or the producers to showrun the show. They're looking for new people, and I think right now I'm gonna say Francesca Gardner might be the way to go, just because she is involved with HBO already, with Succession, and she's worked on shows like Killing Eve and also The Man in the High Castle. Those are really good TV shows, so I would be surprised if it would be anyone else apart from her, because I think she seems like the best candidate to me. And so it's an interesting mix of Brits and Americans, Deadline say, in terms of the people that we've just been talking about. So most of them have experience working with streamers, and many of whom have shepherded projects in the sci-fi fantasy space, which is probably why they're involved. And so we've heard that the group of writers were commissioned by Max to create pitches for a series reflecting their take on the IP. Rowling is understood to be involved in the pitching process as well, and so they'll be able to hone in on their pitches for the next couple of months, with a decision on who gets the job expected for next month in June. So we could be hearing really soon about who the showrunner is. And after that, we're expected to start hearing casting news. And as I said before, there will be new actors playing the series' main characters, but no one has been cast yet. They've said recently that casting would come after the showrunner is chosen, as I've said, so maybe you could hear it this summer, or you could hear it going into the fall or the autumn as to who is actually going to be starring in this new Harry Potter show for Max. And so Warner Brothers is very likely looking for young actors, given that they're proceeding through Rowling's books in order. And the tricky part is the first two books where the kids are on the younger end, around 11 or 12, and then obviously they kind of age up, and that happened naturally in the films because they took a little bit of a longer break. And with the TV show, if it's going to be 10 years of consecutive TV seasons, they are going to have to cast two different actors. They're going to have to cast a young Harry Potter, young Hermione, young Ron, and everything like that, and they're going to have to recast with someone that looks relatively similar for, say, season 3. That will be my guess right now. And so they've said, we've been trying to keep it very close to the vest. We've gone out to agencies, we have our own internal process where we're thinking about people, but we have not wanted to go out into the world. And so yeah, they're keeping it close to the chest if they've actually got anyone in mind. And as for the return of any of the previous franchises stars like Daniel Radcliffe, as I mentioned before, Emma Watson or Rupert Grint, never say never, but obviously Daniel said no for him. I don't expect Emma Watson to return based on JK being involved. And so yeah, it will be a big PR boost, as Deadline say, if you got any cameos of any actors. I reckon you will see some people come back. Those would be characters and actors who weren't the main leads of the film series, but like were in the background, maybe had some notable lines or notable, looks, and so they would potentially come back playing different roles. Obviously all those actors will be older now, and so I expect some cameos here and there throughout the show, but I don't think it's going to be the main cast members, especially because a lot of them have moved on. And that is my understanding right now as to where everything is. And yeah, it seems J.K. Rowling is going to be involved, and that's because, as I said earlier in this video, she has creative control over any adaptations of her books, and that was because they made an agreement back in like 2023 to do with this. And so she is like a leech on the Harry Potter world, because they just can't get rid of her, despite her trying to be as controversial as possible. And I'm sure Warner Brothers wouldn't want to make the show with them, but they're just going to have to stick with her for now because it's just a legal thing. Like, there is no way that they can get around it. And so yeah, for now she's going to be involved, and they're just going to have to try and do the best that they can with her involved. We know with her writing like some of the Fantastic Beasts films, the ones that she wrote wasn't as good because she's a book writer, she's not a screenwriter. So hopefully they get actual writers who are obviously fit for screen, fit for TV, and have experience working with the new showrunners. And in terms of how much the show might cost, it seems it's going to be expensive. So the quote from HBO Max is, we make these shows at the scale with the House of the Dragon show and also Game of Thrones. So the short answer is whatever it takes to make a quality show, that's what they're going to spend. And so in regards to House of the Dragon, as a comparison, it cost nearly $200 million for the show and was the subject to HBO's biggest marketing campaign ever, valued at over $100 million in media spent, which is insane for a TV show. You would expect that for like a tentpole movie or something that is being produced by Warner Brothers or Disney, but this is a TV show. Now, this is obviously going to be a big thing because it's Harry Potter, it's a reboot of the films, so it's going to have a lot of attention. So yeah, you're going to want to make it as good as possible, but I just don't understand the reasoning as to why redo something that's already been done and it's already been absolutely brilliant. I understand wanting to expand and do Harry Potter related projects because Warner Brothers really needs a big project like this to cash in on, as not all of their different IPs are performing really well. Yeah, you've got some big new IPs like Barbie performing amazing at the box office, but like DC was flopping last year, they weren't doing good box office numbers, so you definitely need Harry Potter to come involved and, you know, boost up their numbers a bit. So that's why they're gonna really try and play into this, and so that's where we need to talk about some other Harry Potter related projects. And so David Zaslav has said we're free to do anything we want, and then he said some areas we need to do with JK, but other areas we have the full ability to go forward. As I mentioned, she's involved when they're adapting her books, and that's why I think they should go rogue and, yeah, set everything in the wizarding world, have an older Harry Potter or older characters, and just continue that world, but not have it be dependent on the stuff that JK has to be involved in. I don't know the certain boundaries and the lines of what she has to be involved with and what she is not involved with and what they can do alone, but they've got to figure that out. And so this is a full deployment of Max on Harry Potter, says David Zaslav. We can still develop other properties, and so it's unclear, as I said, where these boundaries lie, but it's clear Warner Brothers would like more Potter and more than just this show, and so there will also be more opportunities for other shows in the futures and other ideas based on Harry Potter and this world. And so hopefully after this show is somewhat successful, you would start to see the announcements of different spin-offs, whether it's films or TV. Probably going to stick for TV right now if this is over at Max. So yeah, that's the update, guys. So this has been in works for a while, and now we're finally getting news, and hopefully we'll get a new showrunner that's announced in the next week or so as we enter June. So let me know, what do you guys think about all of this? Are you excited? Are you a bit sad that the original cast members are not going to be coming back? What do you make of them trying to recreate and redo the original stories? I'm not a big fan of that, as I said, but I like the idea of them continuing it beyond the books and figuring out what happens past the Deathly Hallows Part 2. So if you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. And for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.